everybody, welcome back. Hope you all had a good Christmas. We did pretty good around here. We'll get into some of that later on, but right now we're just going to keep moving forward on Yeti here, and we got the bed done, so now we need to deal with the front half of this pickup. What we're going to do, I'm going to start tearing this stuff down so that we can get in there and have access for body work and things like that, because you got to have all your trims off. You know, you got to have your door handles out. You want your window rubbers out of there, because if you just mask that stuff when you go to paint, it's going to peel, and you're going to have paint line on your rubber most of the time if you're not good at masking. So it's easy to just take that stuff out. What we're going to do is we're going to tear into this door, but we're going to do it, you know, we're going to use a little rhyme and reason when we do it. We want to take our time and pay attention to what we're taking out, and so that we know when it's time to go back together, we can have all that stuff laying here. You know, it's just one of those things that's going to make it easier come assembly time if we've got everything laying here so that we can just put it back together. The other thing too is we can kind of figure out where to find some of this stuff. You know, if we're having a hard time locating something, this is going to give us some time to do that. We'll also be able to, you know, oh hey, this piece is, you know, $40 and that piece is $25 and this piece is that. We can spread it out a little bit. You know, buy something this week, small purchase, and do it. Then next week we can get the other pieces we need, and by the time we're ready to go together with this, everything has come together and we're able to start moving on. So like I said, what we're going to want to do is take note of what we're taking off. If there's something that we think we need to work on, we're going to make a note of that. We're going to, you know, try to go ahead and clean things up kind of as we go a little bit. You know, again, 225,000 miles on this old dog. She's got a lot of wear and tear. We need to assess what we've got and figure out what we want to do with certain things. Now, like door panels, we're probably not going to replace these no matter what. You know, unless we break them bad or something coming off, we're going to just clean them up and put them back, because we're going to put it right back into service. There's no point for my application to spend the money to try to track down good door panels and things like that. We will try to clean them up, and you know, we may do a few things here and there. As far as just replacing them, we're not going to do it. But again, we want to be methodical in the way we do this, and so we need to make note as we go of what's going on with it. Obviously, you know, definitely need some pins and bushings, but that's pretty much a given on these. We also know we're going to need a roller spring, you know, a few things in there. I have noticed we've got some pretty good wear in our door latch, so we're probably going to go ahead and get a door latch. It does shut, but the rubberized coating that they put on it was basically the bushing in this style. That's starting to wear down, so eventually, you know, before too long, it's going to start having problems. So we want to deal with that now, so that we're not having to tear back into this in 6 months after it's done and put a door latch in it. We're just going to go ahead and put a good door latch in it from the word go and move on. Now, our door handle is in good shape. Our inside door handle is in good shape. Our door panel is definitely worn, and they've added some screws that we're going to do away with, because we're going to, you know, we're going to be able to locate them, the right clips, the proper pieces, pretty cheap and easy. So we're going to go that route. Some of this stuff's very faded. We'll try to just clean it up. I think we're probably not going to do any real refinish. You start trying to refinish door panels, you've got to get all the stuff out of that in order for your new material to stick. We're not going to have that kind of time and effort put into this. We're just going to clean them up, I think. You know, our little trims here, you know, maybe we'll do something more with. We'll see. But I think for now, the plan is just going to be to clean all this stuff up. But again, we want to make note as we go of what we need. And you know, the light in the door is busted and gone, so we'll get that, and just little stuff like that that, again, we'll write down or make a list somehow. Our door rubbers are definitely worn. Those are going to go. You know, that kind of stuff. So let's get into tearing this thing apart a little bit and go from there. Okay, I'm just going to clean this door panel up before I take it off. That way, when it's time to go back on, it's already done, pretty clean. You know, we'll just have to dust it off. I'm just going to spray it all down. There's some real nasty stuff down here. We're just going to spray it, just using an all-purpose cleaner. And again, this thing's super gross, So we're just going to be aggressive with it and see what we can do and go from there. We'll let that sit for just a minute, and then I'll agitate it good, and then we'll wipe it down. I'm going to use a brush and then just a microfiber to kind of clean it off. Let me see. I'll be super graceful with this, I promise. See how black and gross that stuff is. If it'll focus in. We're going to just try to get as much of that out of there as we possibly can. Because again, we're going to use this as a work truck, but we don't want to get syphilis trying to drive it to work. That's the after. I mean, honestly, about 5 minutes and we've cleaned up that door so much. Still not perfect. There's going to be a few more things like in here. We'll hopefully clean that out a little better once that piece is off. But, you know, there was a bunch of crud buildup in here. That's way better. In person, it actually looks way worse on film than it does in person. And that's just going to be gloves and pliers and, you know, stuff like that anyways. But this carpet down here was horrible, and I just saturated it and kept brushing, and it's not going to be perfect. I mean, I get that, but that's what it looks like that drained out of that. I mean, it's just disgusting. But again, so now we're going to just start tearing this apart and make a note as we go. Here's some screws that they put in because they didn't know the way to find clips, I guess. I don't know. But we're going to do away with those and get it clipped back on right when it's time. So let's start tearing this sucker down. Alright everybody, if you're new to the channel, first of all, welcome. Second of all, where you been? We've torn into one of these doors before. They're all, you know, again, once you get into this style, they're all the same. But we'll do it again just in case to let everybody catch up. Not going to get real crazy with it. This thing pops out. Basically all we're going to need before we get too far, clip tool and a Phillips screwdriver, and I got another just to help pry apart in case I need it. But this is going to be our first piece because door handle again stays with the inside, and these pop to the outside usually. Just takes a little prying. There we go, there's that. This will just come up. And before we tear all this apart, I did test all the windows and everything, and we know that all that stuff works. So we know that our switches are good and everything. But we will need to keep this stuff close because you have to have this one plugged in for the passenger side to work. We're just starting on the driver's side today. They're the same, both sides. Pull this apart. There's all that. Couple Phillips screws down in there. Well, that's not into nothing. And you've heard me say it 100 times, get a bag, label it, put all your hardware in that. That way we're not losing stuff. When it's time to go back together, we just go back to where we keep these, keep our bags, grab the bag for the left door, boom, there's all our hardware. We're not looking for anything. And again, if we come out missing something as we go, we're gonna make a note of it, and that way we can address that before we get to where it's slowing us down in the future. Grab a magnet real fast. Okay, now this is where it gets, I don't want to say hard, I don't want to say tricky. You just have to make sure you follow the way it's supposed to be done. We need to get the glass out because the glass is mounted to the regulator is mounted to this module right here, this big black piece. So we can't get all of that out at once. We need to split the glass off of it. Again, not hard. We just need to make sure we're doing it the right way, and it's actually reasonably easy. On these, the trick is there's a track that bolts into the front here. We need to pull that track out so that when we get that window down, we can slide it forward. That's going to be the biggest thing right now. So that track is just going to be two 10mm bolts right here on the front edge. One, two, and again in the bag. Anyways, so now we got this track loose, and it will slide down, and it's got the rubber in it, so you'll just have to kind of slide it down. I'm going to slide it all the way down off the end, and I'm going to lay it in the bottom of the door once I get there, because I don't need it, and it'll be a lot easier in just a minute to take that out. Okay, and then I have clip back in my window switch so that I can now, what we want is we want to get to where our regulator is about as straight as we can get it. The arms, we want them straight so that they're kind of extended out to the ends. Then what we'll want to do is, because now we've got room, what we can do is slide this guy forward. Where we roll off the back roller. Once we're off the back roller, we can drop it down, and we may have to move that regulator again from here if it doesn't quite. Nope, we got her. Come around. I told you it wasn't hard. Okay, so now what we're attached to inside still is our door latch. So what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to take off some of these screws that hold this module in. And somebody's been in here before, so we got a couple different size screws. They should just be 7s, but this appears to have some. They look more like 8s along the bottom. Which again, if you watch the earlier episode, you know that these screws tend to back out, and I'm sure that that's why this was done, just to get it up there and secure it again. And anybody that's really paying attention already noticed we don't have a speaker at all in this door. I don't know what that's about. Okay. So now, we're only connected to the latch by 2 rods, the handle and the lock rod. They're going to be tricky. They're going to be hard to show you inside there, and they can kind of be the bear sometimes. But once I get it apart, I'll catch back up and show you more what we're doing. I'll catch you real quick here and show you up inside there what you're looking at real quick before I get it apart. I'm so smooth, guys. It's not even funny. And girls, for those of you that are particular about that stuff. It's hard to see, but there's these 2 rods go in and hook into the latch assembly inside this door. I'll get it apart and show you what that looks like, but this is down there. That's our track laying there that we just took off a minute ago. We'll pull that out once this module's off. Alright, let me do this and we'll catch up. Okay guys, we got that module out of there. Once we got it unclipped, no big deal, pulled out. I went ahead and pulled all the wiring out of it so that the wiring stays with the pickup, but that piece isn't in our way. We'll get into a little bit of that in just a second. But right now, we still got the outside door handle in it. I've got the bolts pulled out, but those have a plunger rod that goes down into the latch, so we need to just drop the latch down. While I was in there also, I undid, it's got the same style clip, I'll show you in a minute, into the lock tumbler, lock cylinder, whatever you want to call it, as it is the rods from the module. So I'll show you what those are like, and I went ahead and undid that. So right now we've only got that door handle, the actuator for the handle in the outside, but we need to drop this down so that will come apart. We'll end up putting this back for now because we need the door to stay latched while we're working. But these are just 3 T30 bolts. Back them out, and this is going to drop down. Boom. Now, just kind of pull that, and it'll kind of twist, and it'll kind of roll out, because you got your welded track inside. The window track in the back side is welded. That's why we had to drop the front one out to do that. But here you can see the latch. It's actually not in bad shape overall. Somebody's replaced it not that long ago, it looks. It's obviously dirty, but what they've done though is because they didn't put pins and bushings in it, it's already chewing up this plastic coating that they put on there. That's your anti-vibe. Instead of having a bushing on your striker, it's built into your latch now. And because they didn't get that door picked up and where it needed to be and staying, they've chewed up their latch. So we're going to have to just go ahead and replace that. But then our door handle's still in outside here. Let me spin you around and we'll show you how to deal with that. Because your lock cylinder is going to want to keep it, it's going to hang up. So you just put your key in it and you'll spin your, right out it comes. If you don't, going back it'll be the same, you'll have your key in it. But if you don't pull that tumbler out and spin it, you won't ever be able to, because it catches inside. So you just throw your key in it, give it a quick turn, get it going the right way, and it'll slide right out of there. So now, all I got left is the mirror. We'll probably drill the rivets out of this thing. I don't know if you can see it in this angle. But now we can do all our body work and everything right there without having any of this stuff in our way. This is our latch assembly, guys. These right here, I'm trying to do this by myself here and it's tricky. This is your clip that your rods are going to go into. There's going to be one there, there's one up here, That one's harder to see because I didn't clean it off. And then there's also going to be one at the end of this rod that goes into that lock cylinder. But what you've got to do is you've got to get in behind this and pull this down. You got to slide that clip off, basically. I'm going to use my pocket knife and show you. You clip it in because there's a burr on the back side of that. It is absolutely impossible to see. But it'll clip in. There's two holes. Your rod goes in this, and that burr on the clip goes into this. That keeps it from sliding off. But your rods are going to have just a groove cut in the end. If it'll focus and I can turn it the right way. Let me show you this way. You can see my knife gets caught there. That's going to clip into that clip right there, and that's what's going to keep them from walking out. But you've got to pull this up and off, and then your rod will slide out, because your rod will actually clip into this. You can see it's clipped into this end here, and it won't come out as long as that rod's in there. But once you disconnect that clip, yeah, it's hard to show. But now that I got that loose, you walk that clip off the end, and that whole thing will come out. Just like that. How's that for terrible TV footage? Love it. Last thing we got is the mirror. We've unplugged it, obviously, because we had the wires all down. Chevy's entry into the worst ideas ever is that bolt right there. You gotta reach in through there with a wrench and pull that off. Those 3 bolts pop the mirror off. But what a dumb way to mount a mirror. Okay guys, so we got everything apart. I did put the latch back in. That way we can close it when we're doing body work, dent pulling and whatnot. You can see in here, now we got all this room. We can get in there and do our body work. That's gonna really help. We'll be able to put a dolly back there, or get in there with a hammer, knock some of this bigger stuff out without having to burn off that corrosion. We'll get into that once we start really dent pulling. I'll show you why we want to try to stay away from that, and we'll go that way. Like I said, we got the latch back in it, so it does shut and close, and just push down where that handle actuator goes. Easy as that. Got the molding off. Everything's stripped. We're ready to start marking dents and tracking this thing down and start doing some good here. Some pretty good damage in some of these places. This one's going to be behind the reinforcement, so we'll definitely have to probably do some dent pulling there. But we'll get into that in the future. But for now, like and subscribe. Go find a project. Get dirty.